Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a little Friday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk as part of the, I guess this is technically Canada Day long weekend. I think many people probably blew off today at the office and are hopefully out somewhere staying cool and enjoying the weekend in this hot weather we've got here in southern Manitoba. Great to have you with us. Hope you had a great day off yesterday. And for those of you that are grinding away at the office, hang out with us for the next hour or two, and we'll get you through right till hopefully closing time as you head out onto the weekend. As always, big thanks to our sponsors, PolicyMe.com, Royal Sports, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Not AutoCorp, Little Brown Jug, Breezy Bend, Boston Pizza, Aikens Lake, Wilderness Lodge, Assiniboia Downs, and Coolbet Canada. We will get to the Coolbet Lines later on today's show. And for those of you that remember, the warm-up on the day before the 4th of July weekend was always significant because, of course, the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest is coming up on the weekend, so we'll certainly touch on that. Dustin Nielsen and I did the lock shop early today. Normally we do it Friday night. It's up there already, so maybe a little later on you can check that. Or if you're listening on the podcast and you haven't already checked us out, just search Lock Shop on your favorite podcast feed, and we'll get after it like that. You can see what we've got cooking for the weekend when it comes to the bets. Let's get Remis in here. Remo, what's going on? How was your day off? You made it to the beach? You get in the water or what?
Hey everyone, what's up? We went to the beach. I got my feet in. I didn't jump in, but my son went going up to the water, and he just sat there and threw rocks in the water for an hour straight. It was awesome, and I kind of just watched him. So I was like, we could do this all day. We had to drag him away from the beach. He loved it, so that was great.
Yeah, no, listen, lots to, it was great. I mean, bottom line right now, make sure you're staying hydrated. Mix in a water or two with your 1919s, or I got to tell you, right now, this summer lager, Little Brown Jug, well, they're most definitely exactly what you want to be, but we'll be getting on this week. So listen, we've got lots to get to tonight. We have the Cup Final, game number 3 this evening. We're also going to talk to our good friend John Horn because John he's always been our go-to guy for tennis. Big day for Canadiens at Wimbledon. But John's also covering what I've been talking about the last few days, and that's Canada trying to get to the Olympics for our basketball team. Semifinals are set. Those will go tomorrow, so we'll head out in a few minutes to Victoria and welcome in John Horn to the program. And it's Friday. Normally we kind of get Kenny or Rennie on Thursdays. No show yesterday. So Wiebe, shockingly not on the golf course today, I think is a little bit too hot for Ken. So Ken's going to come on a little bit later on the program. Remo, we were going to get into, certainly the Cup Final. Some big Bomber news as well. Cam Meredith, former NFL receiver, signing here in Winnipeg, and sort of a weird story that, how that all came to be with him actually being here in Winnipeg. So we'll certainly touch on that. Trade yesterday in the National Hockey League and more. But I think we've got John Horn available to come on relatively soon. So maybe we'll put that up a little bit earlier, and then we'll get into some of the hockey, the Bomber talk, and what more after John joins us, leading us into Ken Wiebe coming up a little bit later on. Well, listen, before we do that, I want to tell you about our friends at PolicyMe.com. Probably heard me talk about it before. Probably been thinking, yeah, you know what? Maybe I have been putting off getting life insurance for me and my family. It's not something that people are fired up to purchase, that's for sure. And I get it. But if you have loved ones, children, investments that rely on you, you got to make sure that those are covered in case something happens to you. But listen, nobody wants to, be going to a bunch of in-person meetings. No one wants to wait 6 or 8 weeks to find out if they're approved. They want to do it easily. They want to do it quickly, and they want to get a great rate. And that is what Policy Me was designed to do, and that's what they're bringing to Canadians right now. You'll get great rates, averaging 10 to 20% lower than other insurers in Canada. It's very simple. You go online, about 15 minutes, answer a few questions. You'll find out if you're approved for coverage instantly instead of waiting weeks with most other companies. And most people don't require a medical exam. And the best part about it is it's easy, simple, straightforward process, 100% online. You won't even be talking to anyone. No confusing paperwork or insurance jargon. 15 minutes, easy to understand application, in, out, all done on your computer at your leisure. Don't wait any longer. This is not something you want to procrastinate on. You'll feel much better once you've got it. PolicyMe.com is the place to go. And PolicyMe.com, make sure when you ask where they found out about it, make sure you say podcast. And if you can specify Winnipeg Sports Talk. Great stuff from PolicyMe. We will get to our trip to Royal Sports earlier today. Now, I popped in to check out a few things. We were actually doing something in the parking lot, which we'll show you on the program a little later on. But right now, we've got these great Euro quarterfinal matchups, and they are moving a lot of amazing soccer merch over there. I mean, they were already the home for boots, balls, I mean, everything to do outside. But when it comes to the merchandise, the Euro gear is amazing. They've got all the top teams there, as well as the Stars jerseys from around their world with their club teams. But it's so much more than soccer. Obviously, baseball. They got an expanded fitness center. Lots of people going camping right now. An amazing selection of high-end camping goods, as well as Yeti mugs. I mean, man, anyway, you got to get there. Get ready for summer. Pop down to Royal Sports and tell them that your friends at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. 650 Rally Nikkei and 750 Pembina Highway. And if there was ever a time to be talking DQ, it is right now. We're pushing 35, 38 at some point this weekend. If that's not blizzard weather, I don't know what is. The Kit Kat blizzard is back. The drumstick blizzard is amazing. I believe they've got a Mint Girl Guide cookie blizzard rocking right now. And of course, if you are getting together with the family at some point that maybe you haven't seen for a while, step it up. Let's get a DQ cake going. 4 locations from Nick and Nicky DQ: Niverville, Northgate, Polo Park, and St. Anne's. And if you want to get a cake ready and waiting for you, hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. All right, let's get to it. We're getting a little early, but we are fired up. I want to talk tennis, I want to talk hoops, and I want to talk much more with our friend John Horn, who joins us for the first time on video here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. John, what's going on? Thanks so much for doing this.
Not much, man. Thanks for having me, just hanging out in the hotel room. A rare day off at the Olympic qualifying tournament. So I shouldn't call it a day off for the players in terms of games. But of course, as for us behind the scenes, people who have to make television and so forth, never an off day, unfortunately.
Well, of course, and I'm sure you're paying close attention to what's happening across the pond at the All England Tennis Club as well as always. So we'll talk a little tennis later on, but let's first off, fill people in on, you're in Victoria right now.
Yeah.
It is a very unique situation. Canada, a last chance opportunity to qualify for the Tokyo Olympics. We've seen a number of NBA stars come in. It's been a great start so far. I mean, paint the picture of it. What's it like? I mean, no fans in the building, lots on the table, and you've got these NBA stars going on, playing on home court. I imagine Canada's got a pretty good feeling heading into this big semi tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's great. And by the way, just before we touch on the basketball, I mean, think of where we were at this time a year ago and where we are now. And I heard you talking about a little bit earlier, just how great it is right now with all the different sports that are going on. I mean, you got this great Switzerland-Spain Euro game that's on right now. The Wimbledon's in full swing. Shapovalov's just playing Andy Murray right now. You got the Stanley Cup Final, you got the NBA playoffs, and now you've got Canada trying to get into the Olympics. Was this where we were at a year ago? Think of where we were then compared to where we are now and all the different stuff. It's like right now you can't keep your hand out of your fingers off the remote because you're going to be flipping back and forth to so many different things. But I mean, it's an interesting time over here because I think at the time this tournament was supposed to have been played last year because the Olympics were supposed to be last year. So everything got moved to this year. And obviously having, Canada having a chance to get to the Olympics and having a chance to do it on their home soil is certainly something that doesn't happen very often and is a great opportunity. And, if it was last year and there was no pandemic, it would have been great. And then they would have had all the fans and it would have been packed and the atmosphere would have been outstanding. And so unfortunately we don't get that this year. They're still going for the prize of getting to the Olympics, but we don't have the fans. They're only allowing 10% of fans in, which just started yesterday. So that was off after the first 2 Canadian games, ironically. So starting for the games on Saturday, 10% of fans will be in there. So only about 800 of the 8,000 seats that are available. But, in some ways, it's kind of good that it got moved, not for the fans' perspective, because they can't see it in person. And it would have been great for Victoria, because Victoria doesn't get that kind of, competition in Victoria very often. In BC, but since the Grizzlies have gone, you don't get the NBA players in town very often, the odd exhibition game here and there. But to have the caliber of talent on the Canadian team, as well as some of these other teams like Turkey and the Czech Republic and Greece, got one of the greatest coaches of all time, and Rick Pitino coaching the Greek team. It's too bad that people can't see it in person. But that said, if the tournament was last year instead of this year, maybe the rosters would have looked different. Maybe Canada wouldn't have got all the players that they've got this time around, even though they're missing some big stars like Jamal Murray, Dylan Brooks, Kelly Olynyk as an example. But they still have a ton of other players. Maybe they wouldn't have got Andrew Wiggins if it was last year. Maybe, Corey Joseph wouldn't have played. Who knows? So the roster that they do have right now is really strong. Just imagine if you add those players that I just mentioned who aren't here, it makes them even stronger. And, several of the players on the other teams have said, look, Canada's the favorite to come out of this group. They have the most talented players other than the U.S. in the world, because of just how Canada basketball has developed over the years. And I think it's a special time and a great opportunity for Canada to get into the Olympics. And they haven't been there since 2000 for men's basketball. So unfortunate fans can't be here in person to see it, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to be watching at home. It's going to be, if Canada can get to the final will be on Sunday, and there'll be a great atmosphere for that in front of TV sets, just not in person, unfortunately.
John Horn's with us from Victoria, covering the Canada's quest to qualify in Olympic basketball. Semifinal tomorrow against the Czech Republic. You mentioned, Brooks and certainly Jamal Murray, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, another player that would have been having a major role. But it has been interesting to see a guy like Andrew Wiggins come back and wear the red and white for the first time in, I want to say, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Nikhil Alexander-Walker's been a big addition, obviously RJ Barrett. But this team did not play any games before they went out against the Greeks earlier this week. Nick Nurse has a plan. I mean, what an incredible coach to have on the sidelines putting it all together. But John, how would you characterize the game against Greece and against China? It did seem like, there has been some, I don't want to call them growing pains. The team got better, though, as they went through both of the games.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think that was the one thing that, there was a small bit of concern coming in that, Canada, as you said, hadn't really played. They hadn't played any games together. So they had a training camp in Tampa Bay. So they got to, scrimmage and practice and get to know each other. And a lot of these guys know each other anyway from previous years playing for the younger Canadian teams, not necessarily the national team. So some of these kids have been around over the years, just not playing at this level, but and they know each other from the NBA as well. But certainly when you play games, it makes a big difference as opposed to scrimmaging against yourself and practicing just like it is for anybody. So these guys, got together and played on the court for the first time together in the first game of the tournament against Greece. And, they were down, I believe, 4 at the half. Greece played well in that first half. And Canada was a little sloppy, a few turnovers. And they've started to figure things out as the game went along, and maybe it was an advantage to play of the 3 teams in their group. Greece is probably the stronger team other than China, who they played, and they blew out by 30 in the second game. So maybe it was a good thing to play the Greek team first, so they had to get up to a good level, immediately on. And then even against China, I mean, they pretty much controlled that game. Albeit a couple spurts at the end of the second quarter and the end of the third quarter where China went on like 7-0 and 9-0 runs. But really the game was almost out of hand at that point anyway. So, I think it's one of those things where, when you don't play with each other, you don't know where players are going to be on the floor like you would when you're playing in a regular season game in the NBA or you're playing for a Euro team, whichever team you play for. It takes a little while to gel. It takes a little while to get the chemistry. I mean, what you're going to get from most of the guys anyway, just in terms of their game. Andrew Wiggins is going to be driving to the hoop and he can shoot from the outside. Corey Joseph is going to shoot from the outside. RJ Barrett is a great shooter, but he can also drive to the hoop too. And you're going to get some good boards and things from guys like Andrew Nicholson, who I thought played really well in the China game, coming off the bench. So I mean, I think that there are guys who are good players on the team. It's just a matter of gelling them all together. And I think that they did that in the second game. And, when you look at, they're going to play the Czech Republic in the semifinal on Saturday. I've been watching all the games, and the Czech Republic was supposed to be one of those teams that would come out and be tough in their group. And quite honestly, in both their games, they didn't look very good at all. They didn't look good down the stretch in their first game against Turkey, in which they lost. And then when they played Uruguay, a team that they should have beaten by a lot more than they did, Uruguay actually had a chance to win the game on the last 7 seconds left. Uruguay's top player missed a 3-pointer, which if he hits that, then Czech maybe is out of it. So Canada might have been playing Uruguay. So the Czechs haven't really shown me anything. They are a good team, though. They've got some big guys in the middle. Thomas Satoransky plays for the Chicago Bulls, is a very good player. But I think Canada is in good shape to get to the final if the Czechs don't play any better than they did in those first two games, because they certainly weren't that impressive.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I was getting ready for Lock Shop last night, looking ahead to some of the odds, and then the game wasn't finished, so I'm looking at the matchups, who's Canada's playing. Mm-hmm. Uruguay was up by 10 or 11 in the second half on the Czechs. I mean, I was somewhat surprised. I opened it up and wait a second, Canada's playing the Czechs? They obviously had to really get their act together late in the game to avoid a pretty embarrassing ousting of the tourney.
Yeah, I mean, Uruguay, look, they're one of they were sort of the out of all the 6 teams, they were the team that was definitely the one that everyone looked at as being the team that probably didn't have any chance of winning it. They don't really have any super strong players. I mean, Jason Granger, who plays for Uruguay, his father was actually played in the NBA a little bit, and then moved to Uruguay and played basketball over there, and that's where Jason was born. So he's got some NBA roots in him. He's a really good player. He actually has a eerily similar look to Kobe Bryant. Actually, he's kind of got that facial look of Kobe Bryant. But he's a good player. He can shoot from the outside. He's a veteran. He plays in Euro basketball. He's playing in Berlin right now. It was probably the wrong decision at the end of the game to go for that 3. They had more time on the clock. He probably could have driven in the lane and maybe gone for something there. But, coulda, shoulda, woulda. You never know in situations like that what the decision making is. And he's their best player. He had the ball. He went for what he thought was the good shot, and he didn't make it. It happened. So, I mean, the Czechs were lucky. They need to work on their defense. They've been turning the ball over. Their defensive play hasn't been great. And I think that, against Canada, who's a much more, in terms of NBA caliber players, is a much stronger team. Now, that said, a lot of these guys on the Czech team play Euro basketball, and they know the FIBA rules a lot better. They play together more so than the Canadian team has. So it's going to be, a matter of talent against experience, playing together. And I just think that, from what we've seen from the Canadian team so far and what we've seen from the Czech team so far, not that Canada should take the Czech team likely, but I just don't see how Canada can lose this game unless their game really falls apart. And I just think that Canada's got too many weapons and too many options for that to happen.
John, of course, they got to do more than beat the Czechs. They got to win the final as well. Yeah. I think based on what we've seen so far, the expectation is that the Turkey and the Turks will probably be the challenge for them at the end, assuming that, they don't play one of the teams they already played. Well, Greece, I guess, in the first round. Yeah. How formidable are the Turks?
I mean, they're a good team. I mean, they're a physical team. They play a physical game. They've shown that in the 2 games that they've played. They've got some NBA talent on that team. Osman is a very good player, plays for Cleveland. Ilyasova can shoot from the outside, plays for the Utah Jazz. They've got some really gritty players, and they've looked good in both their games. I thought they played really well in the opener, and I thought they played really well in their second game too. So winning both of their games, they were impressive. And I think they're the team that would give Canada the biggest challenge. And I think that if that is the final, and that's what I at this point think will be the final, with all due respect to Greece, who is coached by a legend in Rick Pitino, but I just don't think they've had a couple of injuries. They're missing a player, Spanoulis, who is a great European player over the years, had a cup of tea in the NBA. Just retired, and they really feel that loss. Like, he was their leader, he was their guy, and he got injured right before and then decided to retire. So they're missing him. And obviously, Giannis is playing in the NBA playoffs. Well, he's not really playing, but he was playing. He may be playing more, who knows, and his brother too. So they're missing those 2 guys. And I just think that the Turkey is the better team. And I think it'd be a great matchup, Canada-Turkey on Sunday night. The sports schedule is clear in Canada as far as I know. I think there might be Sunday night baseball, and that's about it. But they've scheduled the game so that you'll be able to watch it in the evening at 7 o'clock on Sunday night, and there should be nothing else there. So it should be a great audience and a lot of attention for the Canadian basketball team doing something they haven't done in 20 years.
Well, let me ask you that. Just one more on the hoops. They're at home. They are the favorites.
Mm-hmm.
They've got all this NBA talent. How much pressure is on this Canadian team to get it done? And I mean, I don't want to think about it, but if they don't get it done, what does that mean for Canada basketball with all this talent and once again not being in the big dance?
Yeah, well, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and we were talking about, how many times do we in Canada talk about, the last time Canada did something, and like in this case, Canada hasn't been to the Olympics since 2000 in basketball. When was the last time the Stanley Cup was raised by a Canadian team? When was the last Canadian to win the Canadian Open in golf? Like, it's always like these dates from years and years ago, right? We're always talking about how come it's been so long since this and that hasn't happened. So will it be disappointing? Obviously, I think everybody wants to see, the Canadian basketball team in the Olympics. And quite honestly, I mean, when you look at the talent of the Canadian team, the players who were there and the players who aren't there, Thomas Satoransky from the Czech said, Canada is the second best basketball nation in the world based on talent because of all the players they have. I mean, you've seen in the NBA what's happened with how many players are in the NBA now and the influence of Steve Nash and Vince Carter to all these players and why they got into basketball. I mean, the Canada basketball is stacked with players. So even though we're missing arguably two, the best Canadian player in Jamal Murray, look at all the other players who are playing who are, great players some of them who are starters in the NBA. So would it be disappointing that they don't make the Olympics? Of course it would. If they get to the Olympics and they do win this tournament, I think that there's a very good opportunity that Canada should definitely medal. There's no reason why they can't at least get a bronze. The team obviously they're going to have to beat to win the gold would be the US, but some of the other teams that are going to be there are clearly not as strong as the Canadian team. And so I think, it would be disappointing if they don't get there. Would it be horrendous if they don't? No, because I think that, Canada is going to be a powerhouse on the national basketball scene for years to come, just based on all the players and how young everybody is. I mean, other than Corey Joseph, Andrew Nicholson is a little bit older, and they've got a couple other older players, but Wiggins is young, RJ Barrett is young, Jamal Murray is young, Kelly Olynyk is still young, Dylan Brooks is young, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is young. So they got lots of young players who are going to be around for a long, long time. And I think that, just because they don't get in this time, by the way, I expect I'm predicting that they will get through and get in. But I think the future of Canada basketball is outstanding right now. I think it looks really good. It's almost as good as tennis, if we want to use that as a segue.
Is a perfect segue. And of course, you should be following John on Twitter @SportsHorn. Normally, we are talking tennis, especially at this time of year. And there is lots to talk about right now. Two Canadians, both seated in the top 16, both still alive. What have you thought about Shapovalov and Felix Auger-Aliassime so far in this tournament, heading into their next matches?
Well, I can tell you it's been lack of sleep on the front over here, because it's being on the West Coast for watching Wimbledon is not ideal when matches are starting at 5-6 in the morning. So luckily the Shapovalov match just started now, so it's a more reasonable time frame. So it's been difficult. I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch the Bianca Andreescu match, which she lost. Is probably a good thing because she didn't play. She didn't look like she played very well, only winning 3 games. But I mean, look, I think here we are again talking about the youth of Canadian tennis and how good a position things are for the nation in terms of tennis players. It's not, it wasn't that long ago when, we would go to Wimbledon in, say, 2011 to 2015, 2016, and it was Jeannie Bouchard on the women's side and Milos Raonic on the men's side. And with all due respect to Daniel Nestor in doubles, that was it for Canadian tennis. And look what's happened since. Now you've got Bianca Andreescu, you got Leylah Fernandez playing on the women's side. And then on the men's side, you've got Shapovalov and Auger-Aliassime And then you've got Milos Raonic still, and Vasilij Pospisil is back. So there are other players to watch now. And I mean, I think that the opportunity this year for Shapovalov, who's already up a break in this first set, is about to go up 3-1 here. I mean, I think it's outstanding. I mean, we're seeing the coming of tennis getting even better, in men's and women's. I mean, we've now seen Bianca win the U.S. Open. That's something that no Canadian had ever done. Felix Auger-Aliassime has been to a number of finals, but he just hasn't got over the hump yet. Denis Shapovalov is one of his first tournaments. He's played some good tennis this year, got to some semifinals of some bigger tournaments. And we saw what he did at the Rogers Cup a bunch of years ago when he beat Nadal. That was kind of like his springboard. But I mean, there are a lot of really good tennis players in this country, and there's some that are coming up, younger than these guys that are starting to develop too. So, this year, I think, Shapovalov having a chance against Murray on center court in such a big stage, I expect him to win that match. I think Murray is done. I mean, he's played 9 sets, 7.5 hours. Shapovalov had a 3.5-hour first round match of 5 sets, but then he got a walkover in the second round, so he didn't even have to play. So he's obviously the fitter of the two players. He's younger. He's got 2 regular hips and not 2 metal hips. So I mean, that's going to be a big advantage. I mean, it's great. The story of Andy Murray is great. The resilience, it's awesome. Doing it in England too is in Wimbledon, which is, they love Andy Murray there. Even though he's a Scot, though, by the way, he's not English. He's a Scot.
They don't mention that around the All England.
We kind of forget about that. It's great that to see him playing so well, and I think Felix Auger-Aliassime too. He's played well on grass this year. He's already got to a final. He's been playing good tennis, and he's playing Nick Kyrgios. I think that'll be really entertaining and interesting. We know what Kyrgios brings to the table, but he hasn't been playing much. He's been staying in Australia. He didn't go anywhere outside during the pandemic. So Wimbledon is his first tournament outside of Australia since the pandemic started. And he even admits he doesn't really practice and doesn't have a coach. He just kind of goes out there and wings it. And he's just so talented that he can do that. It's pretty nuts. But I think that Felix has got a really good opportunity to beat Kyrgios just for that reason. Is that they're almost like the complete polar opposites of each other. Like Felix is very down to earth, very straight laced, very polite, very business as usual, goes about his business. Whereas Nick Kyrgios is kind of how he is. He's just all over the place and doesn't really. Sometimes he doesn't try, and sometimes he doesn't care, and if he gets down, then he gets frustrated. So they're almost complete polar opposites of each other. So just based on the fact that Felix has been playing really well, he's probably a little bit more serious about it. Not that Kyrgios isn't going to care or doesn't want to play. I just think that Felix is the more composed player in a situation like this at a slam, although the crowd is going to be behind Kyrgios because they love him. So it'll be entertaining, but I think Felix wins that match.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the odds. Felix is a favorite, but a slight favorite. I mean, it's nothing compared to how heavily favored the Shapovalov was. Although I'll be honest, John, going into this match, I was a little nervous about this spot for Shapo, just in that Andy Murray's already beaten a seeded player in this tournament. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's some, like, if this was a regular event that Andy Murray was playing in, it would be whatever. But I mean, there's something special with him on that center court. He's won the championship twice before, and listen, I know Shapo's a very popular player, but there will be a ton of support for Andy Murray. And I guess the most important thing for Shapo overall is, like you mentioned, Nick Kyrgios being all over the place. And sometimes Shapovalov has been his own worst enemy,
totally.
with letting things get to him, handling things poorly, and having small things, mushroom into bigger problems and costing him matches. But a lot of the composure and the things that have happened in the past, I think, you would hope from a Canadian tennis fan's perspective, are hard lessons learned that'll make him more prepared for spots like this.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Denis Shapovalov in situations. You're right, where he had an opportunity. He was playing Rafael Nadal on clay on Rafael Nadal's best surface, and he was up a break in the third set. He got him to a tie break, and he wasn't able to seal the deal. You're right. Shapovalov's biggest problem is that he gets himself into trouble, and if he can keep the ball in the court and could stop going for like these crazy shots and just keep the ball in the court and rally a little bit with Murray. I'm not saying like Murray's obviously a great player, but you know, if you want to beat Andy Murray today, you're going to want to try and wear him out. You're going to want to try and move him around the court. Yeah, you want to hit winners, and yeah, you want to see his backhand on fire and hit him for it. But he's got to keep the ball in the court, and that's his biggest problem, is that he makes so many unforced errors. And that's with his serve too. His serve has really been letting him down. He's a lot of double faults. First serve percentage has been a little bit low, and you know, he admits that his toss needs to be better and he needs to be serving better. So really, you know, Shapovalov is his own worst enemy. He needs to be more consistent, keep the ball in the court, not go for too many big shots, you know, too quickly. You know, so far it seems to be working out. He's up 3-1 right now and has a chance to maybe go up 4-1 here. But I think that's why I keep glancing up to see what's going on here. The TV is like right above me here. I think that, you know, keep the ball in the court and move Murray around, and I think that he'll have the opportunity to get it done. But that's been his biggest thing. And when he's been on the big stage in certain occasions against certain players, is that sometimes he makes the wrong decision at the wrong time. And you know, he's still young. He's going to learn so much. You know, just again, this isn't I mean, you hear the cliche, it's a learning experience or what have you. But I mean, he's never played Andy Murray before. He hasn't played on center court since he's turned pro. He did when he won the junior Wimbledon title a few years ago. But it's a new experience, and the whole crowd is going to be against him. So I mean, if he can get through this match, this you can chalk up as a really good learning experience for him moving forward.
The Joker's the number 1 seed. He's through straight sets off to the 4th round. He's only dropped 1 set so far, but cannot talk about Wimbledon without asking about Roger Federer, 6th seed, hadn't played a lot so far this year. How's Roger looked, and could we be seeing Roger back playing for another championship on the next weekend?
Answer to that question is no. I'm very adamant that I've been watching Federer this year, and I'm sorry to say, as much as he's a legend and he's a great player still, he will be revered. He will go down as arguably one of the best, if not the best. We'll have to see where things go moving forward because he's older than the other guys are. I just don't see it from Roger Federer. I mean, this is you know, his favorite tournament, his grass that he's won slams on, I think 6 or 7 at Wimbledon. I just don't see it. I mean, he's lucky to get out of the first round when he lost to Mannarino. The only reason maybe he wins that match is because Mannarino slips and falls and gets hurt. But he was down in the 4th set, and Mannarino gets hurt, and then he comes back and wins that 4th set because Mannarino can barely walk, and then he doesn't even have to play the 5th because Mannarino retired after 1 point. So he got lucky there. Played Richard Gasquet as a player that he's always beaten in the past, and Gasquet is not a particularly great grass court player. And then he's playing tomorrow, I believe, against Cam Norrie, I believe it is, and I think Norrie will have the crowd. You know, it's going to be weird actually because every tournament that Federer plays, everyone is cheering for Federer, but now you got to play a player, Cam Norrie, who's a Brit. And it's going to be on center court. This is going to be it'd be interesting to see who everyone's cheering for here, because it's Cam Norrie, the Brit, but this is Roger Federer. Could possibly be his last match ever at Wimbledon. You don't know. So that'll be interesting, playing at the same time pretty much as the Felix Kyrgios match. So we're going to be doing some channel flipping there as well. But I've watched Federer this year, as I said. I just sort of see a different player. Like, he just doesn't seem to. I don't know if it's just because he hasn't been playing, because he's been off, but he's just not the old Roger Federer. And I think this is the unfortunate part, is that, you know, there are glimpses. Obviously, he still serves well, but you know, he's sometimes he looks a little slower. Sometimes he looks like the forehand's not there. You know, he's still trying to serve in a volley. I just don't know. Like, I mean, I think that it's going to be too difficult for him to get to the final, just from what I've seen this year, just in general. Like, even at the French, he wins that match in the 3rd round, and then he ends up pulling out of the tournament because he's done. He's too tired. He can't do it anymore. I mean, this is completely un-Roger Federer-like that you've ever seen, but he admits he's old. He's older, and he has to take care of his body more. It's not as easy for him to get up in the morning as it used to be. You know, it's a lot of years, a lot of toil, a lot of great matches, a lot of travel, a lot of different surfaces, a lot of expectations, you know, a lot of commitments. a lot of money in his bank account, but certainly it's difficult to play at that high level when there's so many good young kids out there on tour, like Shapovalov, like Felix, like many others. Zverev, go down the list. Team when he's not hurt. I think it's going to be too difficult for him with his part of the draw, and I just don't see it happening.
Hey, John, this has been great. Where, as I mentioned, follow John on Twitter at Sportshorn. Where can people find all your reporting and whatnot on what's happening with the hoops?
Well, I'm doing a bunch of stuff for FIBA while I'm here, so you'll hear me during the halftime interviews, talking to the coaches, and then I'm around on the FIBA website and whatever outlets across. Somebody messaged me from Turkey the other day saying they saw my thing with one of their players, so that was kind of weird. So I pop on. I'm sort of all over the place, but Sportshorn on Twitter is the best spot for getting all the social media stuff, and I'm on the gram as well, so I'm over there, same handle. So you can follow me on there, and we'll be doing some more stuff with basketball, heading off to practice shortly. Canada practices at 1:30 today, and then stick around for all the other teams and see if we got any juicy tidbits to pass along.
John, thanks so much for the time. Enjoy the hoops, enjoy the tennis, and let's do this again soon.
You got it, man. Enjoyed coming on.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. There he is. There's John Horn at Sportshorn on Twitter. One of our favorites to talk. I mean, mainly tennis in the past, but this is just a perfect opportunity to kind of kill two birds with one stone. Get the latest on Team Canada out at the Olympic qualifying tournament, and then talk a little bit about our Canadiens that are still alive at Wimbledon. All right, we're going to get Remis back in here in a minute. Ken Wiebe coming up in 15 or so. Big thanks to our friends at Not Auto Corp. Why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Not team? Just amazing vehicles. Got convertibles, Teslas, SUVs, you name it. They've got it, or they can find what you are looking for. And if you're in a vehicle right now and you're looking to get out of it, talk to them about their very successful consignment program to get you max value for your present vehicle while you move in to your next ride. Of course, they also do incredible detailing. The service department is expanding. They got Red Seal technicians. One-stop shop for all of your automotive needs with our friends, Not Auto Corp, Waverly and McGillivray, or check them out online at not.ca. I flashed the summer lager a little earlier, but with the heat as it is right now, why don't you add a little brown jug to the operation for the weekend? Well, more than just the weekend, but listen, this is great beer drinking weather. Let's be straight. And there's no better local product than the Little Brown Jug. Of course, the flagship product, the 1919, as well as the new summer beers, including the summer lager and the Hefeweizen. You can get that in the summer variety pack. They'll be doing out popping by some of the garden stores as well on the weekend. Go to littlebrownjug.ca, check the events page for, they've done the Chernebeats before, the Ron Paul Garden Center. Schedule's there, it changes on the week. And again, it's easier than ever before to get it delivered straight to you. Go to littlebrownjug.ca, same day delivery in the city. If you order, I believe, before 3 p.m., all the details are there, but it's easy, it's fast, it'll come right to you, and it is damn good. Thanks to Little Brown Jug for their support. And I guess Little Brown Jug, gotta congratulate Ryan, who won the big marble race. He's going to be heading out to Breezy Bend, courtesy of Winnipeg Sports Talk, Little Brown Jug, and Breezy Bend. Going to be a great prize. We'll do another one of those going into the August long weekend. Thanks to everyone that joined us on our social media page at Instagram, at Sports Talk WPG. Make sure you're following that if you haven't already. But yes, nothing goes better than Little Brown Jug and golf. Our winner will be doing that. I imagine many of you will be doing that as well. And speaking of Breezy Bend and golf, I can tell you the Rocket Mortgage Classic back sort of on schedule after some tough weather yesterday. Joachim Neiman is the clubhouse leader right now at 10 under par. You've got at 9 under Troy Merritt, Chris Kirk, Brandon Hagee, and the Kevin Kisner, and Davis Thompson as well. Coming up a little later on, Will Zalatoris had a nice round today. He's at 6 under par. And a number of, actually, Kadera's at 6 under. Matt Wolf's at 6 under right now. Should be a pretty interesting weekend. Of course, Breezy Bend, our great golf partner. Find out more on next season's golf schedule. What a great home for you and your family. Talk to Corey Johnson at Breezy Bend. Get on that waiting list, and maybe we'll see you out at the track next year. All right, let's get Remis back in here. Lots of good stuff with John Horn. Definitely wanted to talk the hoops. Discussed that a little bit on the Lock Shop today with some of the picks for the tournament. Canada and the Czech Republic go tomorrow, and fingers crossed we'll have Canada and either the Turks or the Greeks on Sunday night for a spot to the tournament. And as John mentioned, we've got Denis Shapovalov playing right now. He's up 4-1 on Andy Murray, looking very good right now. And Remo, we've got some penalty kicks in the Euro right now. Swiss tied it up late in the second half. Nothing decided in extra time. And there's nothing like the drama of the penalty kick shootout when it comes to these big international events. So we'll stay on top of that as well.
Yeah, and great talking with John Horn about the basketball. Just to switch back here. People are asking, when can you watch these games? They're on CBC. Tomorrow afternoon is the semifinal, 3 o'clock, and then 6 o'clock. These are Central Times, the final. Hopefully Canada will make it and be back in the Olympics. It's funny how, barely getting to the Olympics, like this last chance qualifier, and John's like, oh yeah, they'll be a favorite for a medal. It's amazing. I guess going back to like a couple of years ago, Canada basketball, maybe not what it's been, but even just recently, so many Canadian basketball players come to the NBA, but not just being in the NBA, being stars, being the best player on their team, being first overall draft picks. It's pretty incredible. And it is, one thing about this is, watching the growth of Canadian basketball, and we'll see, hopefully they can get to the Olympics, because I think there'll be huge attention here once it gets going. I mean, I don't know if they would play U.S. I haven't looked at the schedule, but a Canada, U.S. battling for medals in basketball, I mean, I don't know. I think there'll be some extra motivation there for Canada to finally, put their name on the map here in terms of ball. Like, look at all their awesome players.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And listen, I mean, that loss they had to Venezuela was a disaster. I mean, I think it was embarrassing for the program and a lot of guys that were on the club. And now they've got an opportunity to right that wrong, to get there, even though they won't have a player like Jamal Murray. So I think there'll be a lot of attention on that coming up this week. Just watching this penalty shootout so far, I think Spain just got it done. The Swiss missed 3 straight penalty shots. I was thinking back to the shootout we saw earlier this week with the French when they got bounced. That was, I think every single shot went in until Mbappe missed his. Definitely not the case here with the Spaniards and the Swiss. So Spain is through in a penalty shootout coming up this afternoon. Big game. Italy taking on Belgium. Really looking forward to that. All right, Ken Wiebe's going to join us in a few minutes, Remo. We want to get to a couple other topics. We'll get to the hockey coming up with Ken, but first off, I want to talk Bombers.
Yes. Big
news on the over the course of Canada Day. A pretty significant signing at the wide receiver position. And any of you that have played fantasy football in the NFL for the last few years knows the name Cam Meredith. Had, a great breakout season for the Chicago Bears, was signed to a pretty significant free agent deal by the Saints, where the Bears did not match, had some injury issues, been out of football. And I mean, the story that Ed Tate has on WinnipegBlueBombers.com it's fascinating. Like, the first thing that caught my eye is that he went out and was doing a workout with Buck Pierce. And I'm like, how the hell did they pull that off? I mean, in the middle of COVID with the quarantine. Well, apparently, Reem, he's got a Winnipeg girlfriend and has been living here in the city for a period of time. So kind of really strange how this has all come about. But we've got a receiver coming in with a pretty legit NFL pedigree that says he feels as good as he has in the past 5 or 6 years. This guy could be a serious difference maker for Zach Collaros, Buck Pierce, and the Bomber offense if things go well.
Yeah, I remember when they signed Bryant Mitchell before, and I was excited they had another receiver, with Darvin Adams and Kenny Lawler. And I remember him on Edmonton. I played him in fantasy bunch. He was great. Well, he retired, and, they needed to fill that spot. And I can't believe Cam Meredith has been in Winnipeg this whole time with his girlfriend. That was a great story on the Blue Bombers website. I would recommend reading that. But, I mean, in 2016, us with Chicago, and I mean, it's not like Chicago's been putting out like all-star quarterbacks here. He had 66 catches and 888 yards in 14 games on Chicago. So he battled injuries. He played in 2018. Started 1 game, played 6 with New Orleans, had 9 catches for 114 yards. So I mean, his yards per catch looks good. He's a big guy, 6'3". maybe, if he says he's healthy, if he's living in Winnipeg, he says, I read the article with Ed Tate, he said that, look, he sees the passion for the CFL. He's not just some guy who's a hired gun. He lives here right now. I think this guy could be an impact signing for the Bombers, and I think you have to be excited about what he could bring. And, if he's healthy and, he can fit in, it gives him, I think that's a great additional weapon.
Oh, listen, I was like, what? Cam Meredith's on the Bombers? And again, hadn't heard his name for a little while, but we certainly remembered him. And then when you hear the connection to Winnipeg and what he's doing here, it just makes too much sense. And I'll say this. I mean, we'll see what happens, how he is. He says he feels great. We obviously hope that is the case. Considering his family situation, if this works out well, I mean, I think you could be talking about a player that, might stick around here for a few years and be a big part of this team going forward. So we'll hopefully get Meredith on with us at some point next week, find out a little bit more about him, how he ended up here. And next week actually might be a great week to hook up, bang on the door of our pal Darren Cameron over at the Bombers, because I have a feeling most of the entire team, Remo, was going to be sitting around doing a 7-day quarantine before they can get ready for training camp. So I imagine the availability of players to jump on with us might be better next week than it might normally be.
I saw some other players who were like, yeah, who's got a podcast? I got some time. I can hop on.
Yeah,
we're seeing videos, we're feeling more and more like CFL is starting up soon. I saw Willie Jefferson posted a video of putting his, all his belongings on through security there at the airport. Who was the other one? Yoshi Hardrick was at IG Field. He was posting that. So we're getting close. I can start feeling it. I'm just tasting, putting in bets for CFL, getting fantasy going, and we will have CFL DraftKings going. So I'm really excited. And I was looking at the Bears QB for the year Cam Meredith. Cam Meredith played for the Bears. Who was Matt Barkley started 6 games. Brian Hoyer started 5. Jay Cutler started 5. And I don't know if Buck Pierce seen this, but Cam Meredith actually threw 1 pass, 1 completion, 1 attempt for 2 yards and a touchdown. So we'll see if...
What's his QB rating? Does he have the 158.3?
Does he have a QB rating? Oh, it says 100. It says 100, and not quite perfect, but it's better than Jay Cutler's 28 QB rating from starting 5 games that 2016 season. So, and yeah, Cam Meredith's a name people remember. Struggle with injuries. I think it's just getting me more fired up for the Bombers here.
Yeah, well, listen, we'll do that. And as I said, it would have been great to do our first ever Weather with Willie segment right now going into this weekend with the heat we have, but we'll wait. We'll certainly try and get the land shark, the sack chef, back on the program next week. But really looking forward to getting going with the CFL training camp and Bombers. And I was just thinking about July. I mean, this is normally a time where people kind of get going. We're at the end of the hockey offseason. We'll get into this with Wiebe in just a second. But I mean, for us here, I mean, there's not really going to be a lot of downtime room. I mean, we're going to get through the Cup final, going right into a lot of expansion draft talk. Expansion draft is on the 21st. You got the draft on the 23rd, free agency on the 28th. And then a week from there, it's Bomber kickoff, and we'll have CFL games live, locked, and loaded. So going to be a busy couple months for us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily until, of course, we get in to the fall, Labor Day, NFL, hockey coming back, and all of that. Listen, before we get Wiebe on, big shout out to our friends at Boston Pizza, Pop by BP. I didn't spend much time on the patio. I had to go inside. Thank God the indoor restaurants are open right now because it is that damn hot right now. But listen, when you are popping by the Boston Pizza patio or inside in the lounge, you're going to want to check out some of their great summer special cocktails, including the Bulldog Margarita Fish Bowl, the White Sangria Smash, the Peachy Mojito Royale, the Galaxy Fish Bowl, and of course, some refreshing Vizzy Hard Seltzers. They also just debuted the Honey Dill Fried Chicken Sandwich. Now, this is something that's going coast to coast, but I have a feeling probably was created here in Winnipeg, considering the use of the honey dill. Great choice. I'm sure that'll be very popular here, as well as the Burger Italiano. So go check out that great Summers Here menu. You can remind yourself what it's like to actually be out in public, eating in a restaurant again. Do that with our friends over at Boston Pizza at any of the locations. And of course, they're still doing takeout and delivery if you want to get something to the pad while you're staying home. Shout out to Aikens Lake, heading out there in a couple weeks. Cannot wait to get out. If you're looking for a world-class fly-in fishing destination right here in the province of Manitoba without any travel issues, Aikens Lake is the place to be. Find out more online at aikenslake.com or hit Pittoren up on Twitter at Aikens Lake. And they are pulling some monster trophy fish out of the lake. I've gotten a few texts this week. I know Pete Tessier was out there and caught up like a 43-inch pike. This is... If you have the opportunity to get out, you trust me on this one. It is a world-class spot and once-in-a-lifetime fishing adventure. We can't wait to get up there a little bit later on. And, of course, the Assiniboia Downs is back at live racing on Monday. They are taking reservations right now in the dining room. VLTs aren't open, but there is limited availability to go to live racing in the dining room right now. But you do need to make reservations, so you can do that through Assiniboia Downs at the AssiniboiaDowns.com website. And we're waiting with bated breath as to when we'll be able to get out in those grandstands outside at a limited capacity at some point. And I would imagine that probably is coming up in the next couple weeks. But big thanks to Assiniboia Downs. Had a major controversy in race 5 on Wednesday. My one winning bet, I was all fired up. It was a very keen Quinella as well. And then we find out that there was an inquiry, a false, something to do with the starter's gate. Everything got nixed, all bets refunded. So I can't wait to get back at it. Hopefully the luck will be better on Monday than it was this week in the duel at the Downs with Michael Remis. All right, let's get to our good friend Ken Wiebe, who joins us. Lots going on in the world of sports, National Hockey League, of course, the Cup Final. And Ken joins us now. Kenny rocking the burnt orange of the Texas Longhorns today. What's up, Weber? How are you?
Us doing great. You've got a great shirt on yourself. Love the logo. Great to see
Thank
the
you.
merch being
Yes.
available.
Yeah.
You're going to have to
He's
back
got it
up with
going.
that. Love the microphone. Love it looking very sharp. Channeling my, I was able to get to a Red River Showdown a couple of years ago after a morning skate in Dallas. And
That's Texas, Oklahoma?
yeah, unbeknownst to me, Kyler Murray in the game that year. Just an absolutely fantastic tilt. Oklahoma up big. Texas came, or sorry, it was the other way. Texas way up. Oklahoma came roaring back, and Texas won it on a last-second field goal. One of the coolest venues in sports, and how they do it, Huss, down the middle. Going north, all orange. Going south, all burgundy and maroon. I absolutely loved being part of it.
What did you you like show up in a green shirt like a tourist? like oh, what's going on here?
I'm pretty neutral, but this is the shirt my one of my best friends from back home has lived in Texas for a few years. He made sure I was taken care of. He knew I had an extra, knowing I was coming from the arena. So he made sure that I didn't stand out like a sore thumb in the throng of Texas crowd. So absolutely fun event. And yeah, I mean, love to see it. And again, with my love for baseball and hockey, seeing Murray live in that Heisman year was absolutely dynamite.
No doubt. Hey, how's the golf game? Is the Manitoba Golf Tour in full effect despite these sweltering temperatures right now?
It's been a quieter week, Huss. Had a great chance out to get to Breezy again this week, and it is in fantastic shape. As you know, the project's coming along really well, but I have to report the driver is a little bit erratic right now. Did not cart a very low round the other day at Breezy. I'm having a little push-pull problem. The driver usually pretty steady club. The wedge game is solid and the irons are decent, but I need a little bit of range time to get the erratic nature of the driver sorted out here. So the rounds are not going to be nearly as high as last year, but still loving the game and always great to get out.
Well, you mentioned some issues. The Habs have some issues,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have a lot of time to fix them because the puck drops tonight. And I will say that if they don't win this, we'll be getting eulogies ready for Monday's game. What do you make the Habs situation coming in? And first off, how did you think that they played on in game number 2? I mean, I still can't get over that incredible play by Coleman at the end of the second period. I mean, that is as deflating and devastating a goal as you will see with 0.3 seconds left. The the plight of the Habs going into tonight, Ken Wiebe?
Super interesting, Huss. Obviously, they were very poor in game one, but if I'm a member of the Montreal Canadiens, I'm actually feeling pretty good about how the team played in game two. That was much more of the winning recipe, or at least the template you have to roll out in order to have a chance against Tampa. We know they're deep. We know they have the best goalie in the world right now in Andrei Vasilevsky. At least that's how he's playing during these Stanley Cup playoffs. But if you're Montreal, you generated 43 shots on goal. You had something like 92 attempts, I believe. I mean, tons of high danger chances. So your ability to elevate from game two to game one is really encouraging. And you know that the two big errors that you made are correctable mistakes. So, and also correctable mistakes made by veteran players, Huss. I mean, if you had asked who you want the puck on his stick at on that play, on the D-to-D, Sherratt to Weber, you want that puck going to Phil Deneau, right? Based on how great he's been in these playoffs. But Deneau turns it over. It was a great play by Coleman to seal him off. Ryan McDonough steps up, gets the play going north to Goodrow. And then to me, the biggest part about that play, Huss, is Deneau has that slight split second indecision where he wonders if he should go to Goodrow and then realizes that he's the only guy that could maybe potentially catch Blake Coleman, who still has to lay out completely in order to avoid the back check of Deneau, and somehow gets it up over the pad and underneath the blocker of Carey Price. I mean, I had forgotten about this. Sean Reynolds brought it up to me. That's a goal that Coleman scores on Connor Hellebuck in game two of the 2019-20 season, that second game of the year where the Jets came back and had the crazy rally. And then he also did it in the playoffs against Boston. So people that are all say, oh, it's just a lucky goal. Well, there's a degree of luck for sure. But if you've done it 3 times in the last 2 seasons, to me, that's not as much luck as effort. And, there's an element of skill in order to raise that puck as well. So that's just an exceptional play executed by Tampa. But if you're Montreal, you dominated that period, Huss. You have to find a way to get that clock to 0 and be in a tie game rather than, being in stunned silence, looking at each other saying, man, we just played our best period possibly of the entire playoffs. And you found a way to be trailing by a goal. And then too, kind of unfortunate luck for Joel Edmondson. In a lot of situations, the reverse is the play there, but Petrie didn't quite have enough support on that, and then the pass wasn't quite hard enough. So I don't expect these type of veteran players to make those kind of mistakes. And I'm not blaming Deneau. There's a lot of blame to go around. Ben Sherratt needs to get man or puck on Goodrow when he steps up at the blue line. And even too, like I said, Deneau on the back check kind of made a split-second read that was incorrect, but it still took a perfect play to score the goal. So I'm not quite as down on Montreal as many seem to be. But having said that, while Montreal thinks they have a couple of correctable mistakes, if you're John Cooper and that Tampa crew, Victor Hedman said it today, we're not apologizing for being down or up 2-0. And sometimes championship teams find a way to win when they don't have their best. And that's what happened on Wednesday night.
Oh, man. Ken Wiebe with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I see our pal Marshall's in. Greetings from SoCal. Greetings to you, Marsh. Great to hear you. And the Assiniboia Downs, Hustler covering up what he's drinking quite strategically. Listen, I am a koozie guy. Always have the koozie. But just to show, we're not into any silver bullets or little brown jugs as of this point. I still got to do 3 hours in Calgary later on this afternoon, so that will be after we sign off tonight in and around 7:00. Ken,
water here, Huss. Water here.
Yeah, well, of course.
Got to stay hydrated.
The always hydrated Ken Wiebe with us here on the program. I'm not sure if Kenny's water bottle has been in the chat yet today. And I see our DQ Nick's here. Nick, I have a feeling blizzard sales will be brisk right now with the weather going on.
Also, I took your advice and tried out the drumstick. I added a little bit of cookie dough. Summer is official once you've had your first blizzard. So I did. That was a day that I got 20,000 steps in, but I did reward myself with the blizzard.
Listen, that's a veteran move right there, Ken. You deserve it. You have to be able to feel like you're getting something out of all your incredible dedication to fitness now that you are basically one of the leading CrossFit athletes in southern Manitoba. Ken, we with us going in tonight. How important do you think the first period is for the Montreal Canadiens in that, the way they lost game 2 and knowing that the opponent that they're going up against, I would think that, not only Carey Price is going to have to be his best early on. They do not want to get, to me, the blueprint for the Habs is getting a lead. And That's something that they're still sort of really waiting to get. And I would imagine I have a good feeling about them, actually. I still like Tampa in 5 in this series, but I think tonight's the night for the Habs to win a game. And I think we'll see a invigorated hockey team coming out tonight. But again, that first period and the start and getting the first goal, incredibly important for Montreal if they want to get back in this series.
Yeah, no doubt, Huston. I mean, the one thing that we saw from Montreal the other day is that, I mean, so many people have been saying, oh, the Canadiens are boring to watch because once they get that lead, they just completely clamp you down and don't give up very much. But they were able to play strong defensively and only giving up the 23 shots on goal. But they put up 43, and they didn't do it in the manner that we were used to seeing in prior years. Like, there were tons of games where the Jets were the victim of the high volume shot, but they were always from the outside or from crazy angles. But the other day, they generated so much offense. I mean, Nick Suzuki was the best player on the ice, not named Andrei Vasilevsky, 9 shots on goal. And yes, he got rewarded with a lucky one with his power play spinorama, if you will, with the pool cue English on it. But Montreal did generate, but you're right, Huss. They're most comfortable playing with the lead, and that's what they did against the Jets. They got the lead. That's what they did against Vegas. Their ability to clamp down their opponent is so important. And for me, the other factor too, we talked about Philip Deneau earlier. Philip Deneau was a little bit out of sorts in those first 2 games because he went into the series thinking, my job is to shut down Braden Point. But because of the excellent job John Cooper did of manipulating the matchup and getting the Yanni Gordon line out against Deneau, he seemed a little bit out of sorts to me. Sean, my partner there, Sean Reynolds, has been calling that the heat-seeking missile line, and I've been calling Deneau the human eraser with what he's been able to do against Mark Stone, against Austin Matthews, and against the Jets top line. That just wasn't happening in the first 2 games because they were having to go up against the team that sort of imposes their will against their opponent, and that's what the Yanni Gordon line kind of did against Brendan Gallagher, or Terry Lehkonen and Philip Deneau. So now that Dom Ducharme first is going to provide an emotional lift, but you know that Deneau is looking to try to be the eraser on Braden Point. Now that job is easier said than done, but I feel as though Deneau is going to thrive getting back into that scenario where he knows who he's up against and he knows what his job is to do, and I think he's going to embrace that. And the other part about Suzuki, now Dom Ducharme is going to have a chance to get Suzuki out against maybe the 4th line or against maybe the Cirelli line. Like, Cirelli is a great 2-way player, but I mean, that line is a little bit different as well now with Tyler Johnson up there instead of Alex Killorn, who has that physical element and can still get to the net. So I think it'll be interesting to watch the matchup game. John Cooper quick to say, we've got our plan and we're going to see how it works. And I mean, if you're Tampa, you're feeling great about yourselves, but you also know that this is a team that has won the cup. They know it's a massive difference if you can get it to 3-0 instead of being only up 2-1. And now you give that other team some belief. I mean, we've seen it in all 3 prior rounds. You give the Montreal Canadiens an ounce of belief and they're going to start taking it to you. So it'll be very interesting to see that sort of, that back and forth and the cat and mouse game between the 2 coaches.
What's Deneau going to get this summer?
Man, it's a great question, Huss. I mean, I know that the terminology was thrown around that he apparently or allegedly declined 5 at 5 in a flat cap world. Can you pay Phil Deneau $5 million? I mean, this is Huss. I mean, I don't think it's the same, but it is similar to a Bobby Holik situation, right? Except it wasn't a flat cap back then. I think there's tons of teams that will be interested in Phil Deneau and very much should be interested. I think that his offensive numbers will be back on the rise next year, but he does something that so few players do with the efficiency and effectiveness of Phil Deneau that there's going to be a lineup for his services. But is that number 4.5? Is that number 5? Is it 5.5? What's the term? I mean, there are so many great questions. Phil Deneau is a player the Montreal Canadiens want to have. Quebec-born kid playing on your top line. But if you know that in your system you have Nick Suzuki and Kotkaniemi, and you have Jake Evans that can play center. I mean, Ryan Poehling plays some center. He was with the Laval Rocket this year. I mean, they have a little bit of backfill, but they don't have a player who plays like Phil Deneau. But in a flat cap world, how long can you commit to a player that doesn't produce as much offensively as Phil Deneau at $5 million or higher? So to me, the negotiation will be fascinating, Huss. There will be a lot of suitors for his services, but how many contenders can afford that price point or the term, which is maybe the bigger sticking point. You can pay Phil Deneau $5 million, and that contract is never going to hurt you. But how long do you have to commit to get him to come to your program? I mean, we look at things going back to the Atlantic. I mean, if you're the Boston Bruins and you're losing David Krejci on your second line, does Phil Deneau not look like a perfect guy to plug and play into that role, especially if you can get Taylor Hall to commit at maybe a lower number than you would have thought going into free agency last year? I mean, suddenly you've got 2/3 of that second line already taken care of in an organization that has some depth. And then you have a guy like Charlie Coyle that can play center or wing, either on the second or the third line. And then you still have Jake DeBrusk. I mean, is DeBrusk going to be there? Is he on the block? To me, Huss, I mean, sorry, this is totally out of left field. I mean, I think Jake DeBrusk would be a guy who would be a great fit for Winnipeg, don't you? In a lot of ways. I mean, here's a guy who has size, he's got skill, he's been to the Stanley Cup Final. I mean, he's obviously in a situation where it's not going well with Bruce Cassidy. He probably needs a change. And I mean, being a guy from, the prairies, he to me makes a lot of sense for what the Jets are looking for in terms of some of their offseason priorities. And maybe while I'm on Boston, how about a guy like Brandon Carlo? The Jets are looking to get bigger on the right side. Yes, he is an RFA. It'll cost money to sign him, but man, would those two guys make a lot of sense in some kind of a massive package deal between two teams that are looking to change the mix a little bit?
What over under 0.5 offer sheets this off season? Will there be an offer sheet?
Yeah, I mean, I know the Cale Makar, bandwagon of offer sheets is starting to fire up in full force, and I see folks trying to be creative and saying, well, you expect Colorado to match, but if they have to match at a number that's between 9 and 11 million, now you've prevented that team from going the distance in a longer-term deal with one of their other stars. So I understand the philosophy, but history has dictated to us so far that unless there's a drastic sea change among general managers, right now, today, I'm going to take the under. I mean, reluctantly, but I am going to take the under. I don't think it's a safe bet to take the under, but if you had said it was 1.5, I would certainly have taken the under, because I just don't see it as I do see the value of weaponizing an offer sheet, but I don't necessarily know. I mean, the last time the offer sheet was made, right, the Sebastian Aho situation, I applaud the Canadiens, but they kind of made the offer sheet knowing that they hadn't gone far enough. But to me, the smart part about the offer sheet that some people often overlook is that the Montreal Canadiens forced the Carolina Hurricanes to take a shorter length of deal, and that will take Aho to unrestricted free agency sooner, right? In terms of it being a 5-year deal instead of 7. Now, if you're Montreal, I mean, now everything has changed everything's been flipped on its head, but you forced a player into unrestricted free agency earlier than the Carolina Hurricanes wanted him to get to unrestricted free agency. So to me, although everybody knew the AAV was too low in order to win the bid, getting that player to free agency earlier, I would still say, I mean, Montreal may not win the bid in 5 or 4 years from now, but that was a stroke of genius in terms of getting a player to market earlier than he would have under normal circumstances.
Ken, we got to touch on this. The biggest story in hockey right now does not involve what's happening on the ice. It's this situation with the Blackhawks. I mean, I'm sure you've been following this. I mean, what do you make of this situation, and what are your colleagues in the media speaking about this? I mean, it seems like, from my perspective, I have no idea how Stan Bowman continues on with the Blackhawks. And I guess, we will find out more. But based on what we know and what has been reported with some pretty crack reporting from The Athletic and Rick Westhead and the guys in Chicago, I mean, this is not only something that will have big time ramifications with the Blackhawks, but I think there is the potential that this could reach some other teams. And the Winnipeg Jets, of course, are, one of those with Kevin Cheveldayoff and Wade Flaherty from that club with the Jets organization right now. What are you hearing?
Yeah, Huss, I mean, I dug into the research on that a little bit yesterday, obviously knowing we would be discussing it. And I mean, first and foremost, the biggest priority to the investigation and to everything else that is happening is to prevent this from happening ever again. And I don't just mean at the NHL level. This can't happen in hockey at the minor league level, even or the amateur level. This is something that needs to be cleaned up. This cannot happen. You cannot be putting players in that sort of a position or the power struggle or any of that. I want that to be the priority. You want nothing but the best in terms of healing for the two players from the Blackhawks that endured that, and also the young man in Michigan. Like, this cannot happen again. Hockey as a whole, we talk about hockey culture all the time. This can't happen again, or you have to do everything in your power to prevent it from happening again. That's the biggest thing that stands out to me in terms of, I think it's a good move that the investigation is happening. I mean, I know a lot of people are upset with how the league handled this. They expect them to be forthcoming, but this is a litigious matter. We know that the league is always going to be careful in what they say. But I also think that even though the league didn't come right out and say, yes, you will hear the results of these findings immediately, they will share the findings, but they don't want to overcommit and under-deliver in those kind of scenarios. So I understand a lot of folks are disappointed, and I understand that speculation is running rampant and everyone wants to weigh in on who knew what and when. I hope that all those answers come to the forefront when the investigation is held, but I don't see a lot of value in speculating who knew what or who should have known what when. But what I know is that, the cover-up element is a bad look for the Chicago Blackhawks, who for a very long time have been viewed as one of the model franchises in the National Hockey League. So it's a PR nightmare for sure, but we need to know a few more of the facts and who knew what before. I mean, we understand the court of public opinion wants to be the judge, jury, and executioner, and for good reason. We can't have this happen again, and there need to be answers provided in terms of who knew what, when, and why something wasn't done. I applaud Paul Vincent for coming forward. I think he was in a tough spot. I'm glad that he made his case public and that he is welcoming the opportunity to share his thoughts publicly. But the one thing I would caution is that unless you're in that situation, it's easy to say you should have come forward, but I think that's part of changing the culture. We need to get to a place where people do feel comfortable coming forward. And
the thing is, he did come forward.
Right.
I mean, he did. And that was in 2010.
Yeah, no, that's why I say I applaud Paul Vincent. The Blackhawks appear to have handled that pretty poorly. They should have gone to the cops. And I hope
the fact of the matter is, Ken, I mean, if it's reporting something that happens in-house,
right.
That is one thing. But the fact of the matter is that makes this 100 times worse than what happened initially is that after the players coming to the people that they were supposed to, this being brought up the chain, there were no charges. They didn't go to the cops. They let the guy leave under iffy circumstances, sure. And then more players' kids were victimized by this guy who, is a predator. I'll just say it. And that, like, at that point, the negligence becomes far worse than a bad look. I mean, well, that's a big reason why there's another lawsuit being filed by someone that was a victim that I think you could certainly make the argument was entirely preventable if the people in charge of things in Chicago took their responsibility seriously and did what should have been done the second that Paul Vincent walked into the office with what he had to tell them.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, and the suggestion by Paul Vincent that they should have gone to the sex crime unit, that should have been the step that was taken next, right? There's no argument here over that, and that would have prevented a number of other things, even dating back to the other jobs that he had at the collegiate level. So it's something that, like I said, I don't want to see this happening again. I want this to be taken care of, and I want there to be, I understand people are saying justice needs to be served. You want the healing process to happen for the players, and that doesn't, that is probably the most difficult part of it.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point about making sure that it doesn't happen again, I mean, the thing that just keeps on resonating with me, I mean, these aren't stories from the 80s. This is something that happened in 2010 during the playoffs on a team that won the Stanley Cup. I mean, this is at the highest level. The best team in the world that year had this happen while they were winning the cup. Ken, if that can happen to men playing in the National Hockey League, That's got to be chilling to think about what can be possible still today at lower levels with people that have incredible power, influence on the future of so many of these players. If that can happen at the National Hockey League level in 2010, it can happen anywhere, and that is chilling.
It really is. And the fact that, the Hawks wrote a letter of recommendation for that coach, I think that's also a big concern. It's a major concern.
Like that you get into some criminality of the negligence. I mean, as I said, like, I don't know what the numbers are in what's being, because again, these are civil lawsuits. The penalties from this, and I'm not talking about losing some draft picks and people losing their jobs, because that is going to happen. I can't possibly see the resolution of this not, costing some people their livelihood, as well as some really significant penalties to the Blackhawks. But when you talk about knowing what had happened, and if it is as it's been reported, giving a letter of recommendation so this guy can continue working and with kids, I mean, that's just on a whole nother level. And you wonder, I mean, I honestly wonder if some of that is potentially criminal. Never mind what's being sued in the, it's being tried or will be tried in the civil courts.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you talked about the penalties with Stephen Weinel the other day, and I listened into that. And obviously Jeff Hamilton and Mike McIntyre with their backgrounds and this, the work that they've done on the investigative side, have a much better handle on those things than I do, Huss. But I think there needs to be accountability and there needs to be action taken, is the best way that I can describe it. Like I said, I don't want to get into the speculation angle, but I do want there to be, some level of accountability and, resolution to this matter.
Yeah. Now, and listen, I mean, it's a cloud over the Blackhawks, but as I mentioned, I mean, there are other individuals that were with the club right now that, for obvious reasons have not been speaking publicly. And I'll point out that in all the reporting, the meeting that took place, it was pretty clear. Mark Bergevin, who spoke to this, was not there and said that he did not know about it at the time. Kevin Cheveldayoff was not mentioned on that. But just considering how big of a story this is, do you think this will be problematic for, I mean, Cheveldayoff, you got an expansion draft. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. There'll be a lot of meetings with the media. Is that going to be something that will, do you think will be prevalent and will be, something that they're going to have to deal with going forward? Or is there a statement that comes up before then? And then when they're speaking with the likes of you and me, it's about what's happening with the draft and with the expansion draft and like about the hockey business of the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect Kevin Cheveldayoff to either whether it's speaking publicly or having a statement of some sort to weigh in for sure. And I think that obviously he would be probably, he's got to be one of the people requested by the inquiry, because it should be a company-wide kind of idea on that front, I would imagine. So, it's always interesting to see how long those things last, Huss. And I mean, it also depends on what he says, right? I mean, what is the state? What is in the statement? How is it handled? I mean, if people have questions, they're always going to ask questions until they hear an answer that they feel is adequate. So, how long will it hang over? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's up to Kevin Cheveldayoff to decide whether a statement or a public, announcement is the right way to go. I mean, we know Mark Bergevin handled it. I mean, right now, Mark Bergevin hasn't spoken since. I mean, will he be asked about it the next time he speaks? I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to watch us, right? I mean, because a lot of folks are under the spotlight, and we'll see how it transpires. I don't have a good prediction because I've never dealt with anything like this, Huss. I'm not trying to avoid the question. I just legitimately
no, and that's why I don't know, and I don't either. I mean, listen, considering the way things have gone in the last week with Bergevin getting asked about it, with all of the questions at the commissioner's presser, I mean, I can't possibly imagine that the next time that the media is there with Kevin Cheveldayoff that is going to be brought up. Whether it's handled before that, I'm not sure, but Listen, it's going to be brought up. I mean, until there is some sort of resolution, as well as just some answers for, Coach Q. I mean, Joel Quenneville was the head coach. I mean, he's there in Florida. I mean, all of these guys, and not suggesting that any of them have done anything untoward. But again, they were not in that meeting as far as we know from what was dealt with. And listen, there's a lot of organizations when you're talking about something of this level, And I mean, God, the way the Hawks and, these other groups, since they've gone in, I mean, the information is not really at a premium. It's not given out a lot. So certainly with something as serious as something like this could absolutely be, a closed door and information not getting out to people, and that'd probably be in their best interest. But the bottom line in this is, just as this story gets bigger, the fact that it's gone this long, it does look like there is an intentional cover up with some pretty serious consequences of that. Unrealistic to think that this isn't going to be something that'll be hanging over a lot of people with some questions that, might take away from the things that we're normally talking about, which of course is a pretty wild offseason going forward. Anyways, Ken, I wouldn't quickly, other thing before you go, what did you think of the Arvidsson trade yesterday? A second and a third to Nashville. Victor Arvidsson goes to the Kings. This has expansion draft written all over it, considering it looks like Nashville will likely protect 4 defensemen, which would mean that they could have lost him. What do you think of that trade? And is this the first of many to take place in your mind before Ron Francis gets his pick of the litter?
Yeah, I like the deal for LA, who they're trying to move their program forward. They've had 2 years of rebuild here. Obviously, Victor Arvidsson's a guy that we were quite familiar with from his time in the Central Division in that playoff run. I love the way that he plays. He's been hurt a lot the last couple of years, and that has sort of limited his effectiveness from the level that he was at. But he's a good leader. He's played in the Stanley Cup Final. He's got a lot of experience, plays a tenacious kind of game. So I like what he will bring to the LA Kings in kind of that middle 6 role, if you will. Is it the first domino? For sure, but I don't know how big the set of dominoes will be going down the road, Huss. I mean, I think that the one thing that a lot of general managers would have learned from the first time in the Vegas expansion draft is that sometimes trying to protect an asset by giving 2 or more is a problematic way to handle it. We know that side deals will be made, and it can you align some of the side deals with pieces you didn't want to lose, or you were maybe more comfortable with losing than going overboard. So I think it's LA's done a good job of stockpiling some picks. I think it's a smart move for them. And I don't think it's just a flip this player scenario because of how long Arvidsson's contract goes. So I like the move in a lot of ways. I'll be very curious to see how so many of the GMs handle this, because sometimes you're just going to have to hold your breath, bite your tongue, hold your breath, whatever term you want to use, and say, well, I don't want to lose that player, but I have to. For the greater good, so that you don't end up sending a team maybe 2/3 of your top line in an pre-expansion draft trade. I think it's very interesting what you brought up about the potential for 4 and 4. The other part that was brought up is that if you're willing to move Victor Arvidsson, would that mean the Nashville Predators might be maybe a little bit more open to the rebuild side of things under David Poile, which we don't necessarily expect to happen. But if there is another domino to fall from Nashville following expansion, and if they are going to go on that rebuild road, suddenly Mattias Ekholm is potentially back in play as a guy in the last year of his contract. Or does this mean, back to what you were suggesting, if they go 4 and 4, does that mean they already have an agreement with Ekholm either in place or nearing place that will ensure Ekholm remains with that organization as they try to take one more run with this core group?
Wiebe, what's up for the weekend? What are you going to be watching? Lots of sports on, despite no hockey until Monday.
Indeed, it will be very interesting for sure, and I do appreciate the Remis troll job with the Mariners lid there today with me coming on. I'm just kidding. I was a huge Ken Griffey Jr. fan, and I have a few Mariners lids at home at some point in my dad's basement. But I'll be watching the hockey. Maybe hope to get out to play some golf, and always watching a little bit of Blue Jays baseball on the side. But I'm with you. I think this is Montreal's best chance to make this a series. I had Tampa in 6, so I do think Montreal finds a way to win it. And one last thing about that series before we wrap, Huss, I thought it was interesting. Eric Engels, you were on with us. Eric Engels came on and thought it would be a good time for Carey Price to kind of provide one of those calm the waters kind of speeches. And Price has not been available since that I think maybe after game one. So I thought that was very interesting. But we also know Price is a guy who chooses the actions are louder than words kind of mantra. So I expect Carey Price to be absolutely dialed in tonight. I think it's a 3-1 victory for the Montreal Canadiens. And I think the city of Montreal will erupt. Dom Ducharme will provide an emotional lift. And we're going to have a Stanley Cup final that is not a sweep.
Well, Ken, I'm hoping on Sunday night we've got a big game for our Canadian basketballers to go to the Olympic Games.
Indeed.
That will be good. We've got some great soccer on. Jay's going on as well, NBA playoffs. And I get why. I know there's a lot of people that were sour. There wasn't a Saturday night game or there wasn't a game on the weekend. But with the July 4 weekend in the States, if you want eyeballs on your product, you're setting it up the way they did. So we'll see what happens tonight. I do think the Habs have got a good chance to get back in this series, at least with a win in tonight's game. If they don't get it done, though, we could be only having a couple more playoff editions of Kenny and Rennie. Fill us in. You guys back at it tonight after the game?
Yeah, you bet. Sean's back in Montreal, Huss, and he'll have to hustle back to the hotel, and we'll probably should be getting up around the 11:30 Central Time matter. Could be 11:15 at the earliest, but I would expect it to be around that 11:30 time slot. We've had some great interactions and engagement. We know it's the weekend, so folks are, it's great to see things getting a little bit closer back to normal with the restaurants opening up at a little bit more capacity, and we know that the patios will be booming in the 30 plus temps, but yeah, we got a little bit of hockey talk for you to get you through the weekend if you're looking for something to do.
Well, and the great thing about the platform is that even if you're not up at 11:30, you can get up tomorrow morning and find out everything that happened at the game and all the great coverage you guys are doing. I've been really enjoying the shows. I'm always getting in there on that. Eric Engel is an amazing guest when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens. So keep it up. We'll look forward to seeing what you guys have tonight. And again, folks, if you're not already, make sure you get over to the YouTube page for Kenny and Rennie and get that sub button. And they'll be on tonight around 11:30. Wiebe, hit them straight, or straighter than they've been lately.
Thanks. Let's have a great weekend. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to discuss all these matters, and great to chop it up and enjoy the 3 hours with the boys in Calgary.
You got it. Appreciate it, Ken. Great stuff. There's Ken Wiebe. Follow him on Twitter at Wiebes World, doing some great work covering the Jets, the NHL for Sportsnet, and of course he and Sean Reynolds will have another playoff edition of Kenny and Rennie tonight around 11:30. As soon as Sean gets back to the hotel from the rink, he'll be doing it. And the shows have been great. And as I said, Eric Engel has been a really, really strong guest. A great perspective on the Habs in particular and the series that we've got going on. All right, a couple things we have to get to before the end of the program. We need to tell you about what we were up to this morning before the show. But first up, let's get to our Coolbet Lines of the day. Quick update for you. For those of you that are watching live, Denis Shapovalov took the first set 6-4. Just saw that he's up 3-0. So pretty nice start for Shapo over Andy Murray, looking to make his way to the fourth round. Tomorrow, it'll be Felix Auger-Aliassime taking on Nick Kyrgios. And earlier, took penalty shots, but Spain is through to the Final Four of Euro 2020. And right now, the Italians and the Belgians are going at it 0-0 in the first half right now. Tomorrow, we've got two big games, the Czech Republic and Denmark. Denmark 120 plus 121 to win in regulation, a draw plus 220, and the Czech Republic plus 292. And then tomorrow at 2, England, a massive favorite, minus 217 to win in regulation, plus 319 for a draw. And the Ukrainians, the biggest underdog of this round of 8, plus 762. If you click on the markets as well, you can see the to qualify bet. That's essentially just to advance. So, for instance, in the Czech Republic Denmark game, Czech Republic is plus 140. Denmark is minus 167. That's where you want to bet if you don't want to worry about whether the game goes to extra time, whether it goes to penalty shots. That's essentially the money line bet, if you will. To win, to advance. That's the one. National Hockey League, tonight's game is between the Lightning and the Canadiens. Canadiens down to plus 117 favorites. It was plus 119 earlier, so a little bit of money coming in on the Habs, moving the line just slightly. Tampa minus 133 right now. And Tampa minus a goal and a half is plus 199. Habs plus a goal and a half, minus 227. And the series price, if you think that the Habs are have some more miracles coming up and they'll get back and win the series. 8-1 right now, plus 800 if you want the Habs to win the series. Quickly tell you about big game tomorrow night in the NBA. Game 6. Can the Atlanta Hawks force a 7th game? We'll see if they can. Trae Young didn't play yesterday. No Giannis yesterday, so lacking a lot of star power, but a big win for the Bucks. Brook Lopez was unreal. Chris Middleton had a big game. Hawks, though, 2.5-point favorites at home and minus 143 on the money line to push it to a 7th and deciding Game 7. Listen, there's a couple more odds I do want to get to, which is, of course, the hot dog eating contest coming up on Sunday. But first, let's get Remis back in here because we'll finish off with some hot dog takes for the Nathan's Famous contest. Good chat with Ken. A lot of things that we covered, Reem. I know you wanted to talk about that Arvidsson trade from yesterday. Interesting move. I wasn't really expecting that. You don't really get a lot of trades happening during the Stanley Cup Final. But with the expansion draft just around the corner, it seems like some GMs are kind of shuffling the deck chairs. And LA, who has been terrible for the last few years, looking to get back to prominence and competitiveness, adding Victor Arvidsson for a 2nd and a 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. They get a guy, he's kind of fallen off. In 2018-19, he scored 34 goals and had 48 points. The 2 years before that, he had 2 consecutive 60-point seasons. But since then, I think he's struggled with a lot of injuries. He's been banged up. I'm willing, when evaluating players, I'm willing to discount this shortened season that we just had. For whatever reason, maybe players weren't able to mentally get up for the games without fans, or you're dealing with stuff in your personal life. Whatever reason, I think it is totally fair to be like, you know what, I'm willing to give this guy a shot for a 2nd and 3rd. LA, they need NHL bodies. They can protect him. He's got a reasonable contract. I think it's like $4 million for the next 3 years for a guy who scored 30 goals before. I think it's a chance worth taking. In LA, they need talent. They're not as deep as they were in their cup teams. And I think this is a good ad for them. Mitch in chat said he thought it was a steal for Nashville. So maybe that just means it's a good hockey trade, Us.
Yeah, listen, I mean, there's plenty of room for offensive production in LA. So if Arvidsson can come in, it'll be a great spot. He'll get plenty of opportunity. It could end up being good for LA. For Nashville, I mean, listen, if you're going to lose a player like that, get a 2nd and or 3rd round pick, get you some draft capital going forward, and go from there. Oh, looks like the Italians are on the board, up 1-0 on Belgium in the first quarter. All right, folks, it's been an exciting week. We launched the store. So yeah, by the way, if you're here right now and you haven't seen it already, we've got the merch going. There's the Winnipeg Sports Talk shirt. We've got some hoodies and whatnot. If you haven't checked it out right now, you can go to winnipegsportstalk.com, hit the store button. You'll get right to the link. Shipping included in Canada for all the costs. And great turnout so far, man. We should thank everybody that reacted so quickly when we launched it with a ton of orders. We really appreciate it and cannot wait to see some of this Winnipeg Sports Talk merch in and around the city on some people that have been supporting us so well.
Yeah, I know some people. I sent out the email, and if you want to get updates on new products, go to the link and you can sign up and we'll send them out. But I mean, right away, I think it was Braden came in, Fleming, and he purchased something immediately. That was like the first one. And I know we got a number of purchases throughout the day, and a lot of the names were people who I've seen in the YouTube chat. So we really appreciate everyone who is supporting us in this venture and willing to rep the merch. We're hoping to make like nice, comfortable clothes. I know you were wearing, I think you didn't take off the hoodie. You were wearing the hoodie like today outside. You loved it so much. I
figured, okay, so folks, this is the other thing. So today we did a bit of a photo shoot. Why in the world would we need a photo shoot? Well, good question. It's because Winnipeg Sports Talk is getting into the racing game, and we've teamed up with Rick Delane, one of the top Manitoba drivers, and Delane Racing. And I think we showed this earlier, Remo, at one point, just a picture. But today we got to see this bad boy up in person. We went by Royal Sports, took a few pics, got a chat. You actually went into the car today, which was quite incredible, Reem. But listen, if people haven't seen it so far, there it is. look at this bad boy. That is the car that Rick's going to be driving this year out at the Victory Lane Speedway, as well as if the border opens and they're able to get down. I mean, he's got a great track record in the circuit in North Dakotas and Minnesota as well. But listen, I was out of my mind when I first saw the picture, Reem, but to actually be there, see the car in person, it was amazing. Rick's such a great guy too. Really excited to have us on board with them. So this is a big moment for us into the racing game with Delane Racing, and I can't believe how cool that car looks.
That car was. I went in there. Let me pull up the video quickly. I went in there. He's got that huge. He's like, but when we first started, he's like, I want to put your guys' logo on my car, and I was like, yeah,
Let's
sure,
do it.
let's do it. But like, literally, is the entire hood. So when he gets going, we'll have to come out and support him here. I can pull up the video of this car here.
Yeah. Play that video. Let them hear the power of.
Oh, that thing's loud. Well, that's me. That was me in there. Man, I had to climb in, and it wasn't easy. You got to take the steering wheel off. You can't climb in with the steering wheel attached. Where's the video of me getting? Oh, here's me getting out of the car. We can play that 1 second.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see all my Google files. Oh God, gonna have to edit that one out.
Oh geez.
All my Google Drive
Google
files. Oh geez, everyone's seeing that now. Hold on, let me bring this thing up. Here, this is me getting out of the car. And 1 sec. Here, check this out.
Great photography by me.
No, I think getting out was easier. There you go, like a pro right there. Oh yeah, there you go. I'm looking pretty good in my Winnipeg Sports Talk tee. I think
available now at store.winnipegsportstalk.com. Yes, indeed. The launch codes dot.
Yeah. And Dan says, did I take it for a spin? I don't think I would even be able to drive it. I asked him, is a manual drive, and it's like apparently not like a retail car manual. It's like however it is. So I would not even be. They turned it on, and like you needed earplugs to deal with that.
So anyways, big thanks to Rick Delane and Delane Racing. We're going to, we'll get out to the track at some point when we're able to and cheer on Rick, and hopefully get a few of you out there as well cheering him on. It should be a heck of a lot of fun. But yeah, it was a great way to sort of finish off the show. Thanks to everyone that's here today. These are the hardcores. I know a lot of the regulars are probably out away for the long weekend, but we really appreciate everyone that's with us live on YouTube, and for everyone that's listening on the podcast at some point today or over the weekend. Thanks so much. We've got a big week coming up next week. Of course, we'll finish up the Stanley Cup Final. We'll get ready for Blue Bomber training camp. We'll have more on Canada trying to qualify for the Olympics in basketball. It'll be the second week of Wimbledon. Valor FC getting back at it. By the way, I should mention, I should have done this right off the top. I guess we had the day off where we missed it. The Valor boys are 2-0, Reem. Another 2-0 win. They beat the Halifax Wanderers after that big win over Hamilton to start off. And listen, I saw a couple of the goals, and I got to give credit. Valor FC, their social media has been awesome. Great behind-the-scenes content if you're interested in finding out more about the team and what it's like behind the scenes. But I got to tell you, for a team that really did struggle in year one, made some gains, but still had a lot of work to go after the Island Games, Remis. Our pal Gailey 77 has got the boys looking very good with this new look squad at 2-0 right now in this young CPL season.
Yeah, isn't that the first time they've won consecutive games? If I read
ever.
And they just had some positive news of the defender Andrew Jean-Baptiste named CanPL.ca Player of the Week. So things are looking up.
Best nickname as well. He is the Beast, Andrew Jean-Baptiste. He's the captain. I gotta say, we had him on a couple times back in the warm-up before, and he is just a great guy to talk to. In fact, you know what? He's also on the hit list for next week. We'll see if we can work it out some point and maybe get the Beast on, talk about the great start for the season.
They're going to have, their first game with fans next week, July 7, Wednesday, was like 2,500 fans or so, 7 p.m. So 2,000 fully vaxxed. It was 2,000? Okay.
Hey, you know what? And by that time, I will be in the clear. I'll have had my
Yes.
shot for 2 weeks, so maybe I'll see if I can get in on that game. Speaking of soccer, as I mentioned, the Italians up 1-0 on Belgium. Tomorrow, Denmark, Croatia early, and then a 2 p.m. kickoff for England and Ukraine. I have a feeling that game in particular is going to light the city on fire. We know how many excited Ukrainians there are in Winnipeg. And, well, the English support goes without saying. Lots of fans of England. Great stuff, Remo. Anything else you want to touch on before we get out?
Well, yeah, we got to touch on Vlad Guerrero Jr. Was the winning vote getter for the All-Star game. Pretty incredible, but I think it spawned this. Let me try to bring this up here. This picture that his dad tweeted out. This picture won the internet yesterday. Let me just fix it. But this is Vlad Guerrero Sr. posting on Twitter. When you were a little kid, you used to go with me to the All-Star game. Today, you become the youngest player ever to lead an All-Star voting. And look at this young Vlad. Let me just fix this. Young Vlad Guerrero Jr. Incredible how little he is there.
The
Very
little
thick.
Vladdy pics are amazing. And we all remember, when Vlad finished up at the Expos, he was out there as a little bat kid. Kind of reminded me of Darren Baker, Dusty's kid back in the day. But, to see a kid that we saw grow up in front of our eyes at times now turn into arguably the best hitter in baseball, pretty exciting for the Blue Jays. And listen, if he was doing this in any other year other than the year of Shohei Ohtani, he'd be a heavy favorite, I think, to win the MVP. But unfortunately for Vladdy, he's in the AL right now, and what Ohtani is doing is something that we haven't seen done in 100 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think Vlad futures were looking pretty good, but Ohtani just went on this home run barrage the last week and a half, and he's also, he can also pitch too. So again, that. So pretty incredible, and it's amazing how he turned the whole fantasy game upside down because he can pitch and hit. But I loved this picture from the weekend. I'm trying to see if I had any other notes. Oh yeah, one thing I've really been do you want to look at the hot dog odds? Like, does Coolbet have that?
That is what I'm going to be hitting on to the end. That'd be the final thing. By the way, shout out to C-Mac Tron. Joe, he's big Habs fan. Go Habs, go baby. He just said, hey, the Habs series against the Jets sucked me onto this channel. I was just here to troll during the season. Now I watch almost every day. Love you, C-Mac. Hey, you're always welcome. Habs fans. I don't know where Sam. I'm concerned about how Samuel 22 is doing. Because he has been a regular and obviously getting along with everyone, but tense times for Habs fan going in. But I will tell you, I think they win tonight. I gave the Habs out as my dog pound pick in the lock shop. You can check that out later on. But yes, Remis, as you mentioned, coming up on Sunday, in addition to all the other great sports, there's the granddaddy of them all, the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest. The GOAT, Joey Chestnut, going for an 11th mustard colored belt. And as you can see, Joey Chestnut, the heavy favorite, minus 2,500. And essentially you can get 10-1 on anyone other than Joey Chestnut. Could Jeffrey Esper, world number 2 ranked competitive eater, push the champion? We will see. And you know what? Matt Stoney won the World Popcorn Eating Contest a couple weeks ago, beat Joey in that. I mean, Joey's taken some L's in other disciplines lately, but when we're talking July 4th, America, hot dogs, and buns, there simply is only one Joey Chestnut, Remis, and he is truly the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I don't think I could bet on him at minus 2,500, like plus 1,000. There's some really strong eaters, and he didn't win last year. So I would go with anyone but Chestnut. I think
he won last year. He set the all-time record of 75 hot dogs and buns, which brings me to the pick.
Wait,
he hasn't lost since Matt Stoney. Matt Stoney beat him in 2015 when Joey was going through some personal issues. Yeah, and I had it. This may be the best bet I've ever made, like plus 850 for Stoney to win, and he won.
I should know this. Wait, he's won every year since then?
Here we are. You know what? While we're here, here are the totals. So last year, and this will lead into the bet of the week, which is on the total. 2020 men's, Joey Chestnut, 75. 19, he ate 71. In 2018, he ate 74. 2017, he made it to 72. 2016 was the historic day where he broke the 70 hot dog and bun record. 2016 was 70. 2015 was the year that Matt Stoney shocked the world, eating 62 hot dogs and buns to win the mustard killer belt, and maybe the greatest upset in the history of the event. The reason why I bring those up, Remis, though, is because the number that we need to talk about here before finishing up the show is the total. The over-under on hot dogs and buns for the Nathan's Hot Dog Contest is at 73.5. The over, which is what most people will bet, minus 192. The under, a very juicy plus 150. I will officially make this on the program right now. I am taking the under 73.5 HDB at plus 150. Couple reasons for that. First of all, Reem, last year in 2020, yes, Joey Chestnut did set a record and got his incredible total up to 75. But let's not forget that due to the pandemic, last year's event was held inside in perfect eating conditions. This year it's going back outside. I mean, they'll have to handle the weather. They'll have to handle the elements. They'll have to handle the crowd. And it won't be like it was last year with the best eating conditions in the history of the event. So they're going back outside. Now, I have been looking at the weather. It looks like it's going to be a high of, 26 or 27 degrees, which, to be honest, is perfect. It won't be too hot. I don't believe it's going to be excessively humid. But still, we're talking about it being outside, not being inside. And the other thing about it is that when it comes to hot dogs and buns, Joey Chestnut has no rival, has no equal. I mean, Matt Stoney's really fallen off in the HDB category the last few years. I don't believe that Jeffrey Esper or any of the other competitors are really going to push Joey Chestnut so that he needs to push himself. Really, the last few years, Chestnut's just been trying to beat his own record. And I think after 75 was put up last year, without a big push, without perfect eating conditions, I think the smart money is actually going to be on the under. Now, sometimes they'll give the benefit of the doubt at the end, and maybe it ends up getting to 74, 75. I don't see 76 happening. I don't think he'll set a new world record. So if that's the case, I think he gets to 71, 72, and that will be it. So I'm predicting 72 hot dogs and buns. I'm taking the under plus 150. Not a popular pick. Remis, I'm a huge Joey Chestnut guy, but I just don't see it all coming together for another record. And with a juicy number like plus 150, I'm getting on that under.
Yeah, I just did it. I agreed with you. I agreed. The results last year were skewed because it was inside. We've seen this heat wave across North America. It's going to be a hot one. Can he power through? So I do like the under. I can't believe this run of dominance. My favorite part of the hot dog eating contest is the commentary, but also the graphics when they show like Rocket Richard, however many championships won.
Bill
Larry
Russell.
Bird. Yeah, Bill Russell. And then it's like Joey Chestnut. And this, I know it's like hot dog eating, but to be this dominant in a world competition at anything, any discipline, to have this run that he's had, I think it's incredible and it should be celebrated.
Yeah, C-Mac wondering, what are the best eating conditions? Cool, not that humid.
Yeah,
and
not rainy.
Often on the 4th of July, they're getting in it steamy, and it's not going to be that steamy. But I mean, just 2 years ago, in similar conditions, Joey Chestnut put up 71 after hitting 74 the year ago. So it's not a done deal that just Joey Chestnut just walks up and automatically breaks the world record, especially now that he's pushed it to the limit with 75 hot dogs and buns eaten. So as I said, you want a prediction? I'm going with 72. I'm taking the under on 73.5, and yeah, high noon, so I guess 11 o'clock our time on Sunday, 4th of July. They're doing it. They're not doing it on the boardwalk this year, Reem. They're doing it at the home of the Brooklyn Cyclones baseball team, just down the way from the boardwalk, I guess. But it might look a little bit different, but again, it will be outside, and we won't have terrible eating conditions, but I don't think, as I said, it's just not going to be perfect like it was last year. And I don't think there's anyone to really push Joey Chestnut to have to break the world record. So that's where I'm sitting. Will he get to 70? Yes, for sure. I don't think 73.5. That's why I'm taking the under. And I love the plus 150 on it.
Great analysis. I'll have to tweet that one. I will have some time before the 4th of July. And yeah, I think it's a ticketed event now. Obviously, you got to limit it. I'm used to be at Coney Island, and they would just
madness.
Jam as many people as you could. So I guess they got to, have some, distance between the competitors and the people. Maybe you can have a more controlled environment. But we always look forward to it. And I remember cutting up like the clips of it. So we'll have some fun. It is something, it's a 4th of July thing we always talk about. And I think people, it's so funny. We get so many, these guys talk about eating competitions all the time. It's literally like once a year. And when there's normally no other sports going on, but because of the calendar.
Well, and of course we did create and start the Winnipeg Pierogi Eating Championship, which I think we've given out the title 5 times. Unfortunately, didn't happen last year because of the pandemic.
Yeah,
There's no Folklorama this year, so we won't be doing it at Spirit of Ukraine this year. But let's just hope, fingers crossed, that a year from now will be the return of Folklorama and the return of the pierogi eating contest, which was so much fun. I'm sure Stepdaddy Jay is still training, still knocking, like, when's the contest? He'll be heading out here. All right, folks, listen, been a great week. Thanks to everyone for hanging out with us. We got soccer on the weekend. We got the hoops. We've got the game tonight. Blue Jays going on. Sunday's hot dog contest. There's going to be plenty to watch this weekend, and there'll be plenty to talk about on Monday. And I guess in the meantime, everyone should just stay cool.
Yeah, stay cool. One of the things I wanted to bring up, we can touch on this more, the college NCAA name and likeness rules. It's fair game. All athletes can be making their own money. So
Wild West right now. Wild West.
It's wild on Twitter. And I also saw Reggie Bush putting out an appeal to give him back the Heisman Trophy and his records.
Reggie.
I'm fully in support of Reggie Bush. Fully in support of all these athletes getting, what they're worth. So I'm enjoying seeing all the tweets. I saw some other organizations saying, "Hey, any college athletes want to sign?" I saw Cameo putting out, I know Barstool is like, "Hey, I don't know if we're in the place where we can sponsor some Winnipeg guy who's playing college hockey in the U.S." But I think it's going to be great, but also very interesting and uncharted territory.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, that little we'll get like Dan Lust on, one of the lawyers or something, on to come and talk about, what this means, how much money they can get going forward. But listen, it's good to see. It's progress for sure, because the way the NCAA has run as a monopoly, not allowing these kids to go pro, but at the same time, not allowing them to make any money off legitimate likeness that, has been built on their own hard work, didn't make a lot of sense.
And I think we'll see maybe some players who, may not be that impactful at pro, but very good college players try to stay longer to, prolong and make that money. And I'm also enjoying seeing former college athletes like Rex Chapman, who's very active on Twitter, who's like, I could have been making like gazillions. And like everyone had, Rex, colleges were selling, jerseys and stuff of those players, and those players weren't seeing anything from it. Meanwhile, the athletic director, the coaches, the broadcasters, everyone's making money except for the players. So I'm really happy.
Well, that's not really the case. That's like, listen, a lot of the players are getting money.
Sorry.
I will say this. I won't say who the player was, but a member of the Bombers in the past that played at a very prominent Big 12 school. I asked him, I said, so what was it like coming from the NCAA to the CFL? And he goes, well, first off, I had to take a pay cut.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm glad that people were doing it then. I hope people were, because it's sick that you can or weren't able to legally.
Reggie Bush certainly was. It's I don't know. That's an interesting thing. Holy smokes! I just turned around halftime. I'm gonna have to rewind and check the highlights. 2-1 now. 2-1 Italy over Belgium. Heck of a first half. The guys seem to be laughing pretty well. Well, I'll check up on that right now. Again, if you want more of me, I'll be jumping on this afternoon on Sportsnet 960 from 4 to 7 Winnipeg time, getting ready for the weekend as I normally do. Be doing a bunch more shifts there in July coming up next month. But for the meantime, today, 4 to 7, I'll tweet it out. You can check it out online. Pat's away today. I'll be hanging out with Logan Gordon. Should be a lot of fun. And again, thanks to Policy Me, Royal Sports, Nick and Nikki DQ, Not AutoCorp, Little Brown Jug. May I suggest this summer lager for the weekend? I won't steer you wrong, folks. Breezy Bend, Boston Pizza, Aikens Lake, Assiniboia Downs, and CoolBet.com. Enjoy tonight's game. I think the Habs get back into this series tonight. Remote, are you with Tampa or Habs tonight?
I think more people said that we did a poll a while ago, and I think a lot of people said Tampa was their pick. Yes, 61% Tampa, 38% Montreal. Montreal played so well, but they really needed that win. I think I'm. They have Ducharme back. They're at home. 3,500 fans. They're not letting any more in, which is, I think, incredibly disappointing. I think based on the line, I think I got to go Tampa, but I want Montreal to win.
I've got Tampa in 5, but I think the Habs win this game tonight and give some excitement to that city over the course of the weekend going into Game 4. But again, we'll be back on Monday getting ready for Game 4, talking all about it, along with all the action coming out of the weekend. Folks, if you haven't already, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button. A lot of our regs aren't there, so we could use a few more likes. And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. Spread the word. Hit the store if you'd like to get some of the new merch, which is available right now. The hoodie is awesome. I can tell you that. These shirts are super comfortable. I think you'll really like them, and we certainly appreciate the support. All right, that's going to do it for us, folks. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay hydrated, stay cool, and we'll see you on Monday afternoon here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We're out.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.